This block is called Bamboo and it finishes at 12 inches. I saw a version of this block. It was laid out the same, but it had different fabrics. It was just a 2-color fabric in a magazine, and I don't know which magazine it was because the pages were just torn out. And I call this bamboo because it looks to me like stalks of bamboo with the little leaves coming off of it. If you look at it closer, and I'm going to cover up 3/4 of the block, and you'll see that this is a friendship star. But it's really interesting how your different colors how you color the fabrics can be so totally different. It's basically just 4 friendship stars on this block. I have a friendship star quilt that I have a video on. I'll have a link to that in the description below the video. Also, I came up with a bunch of different colorings just to show you how different this block can be. And there's a link to my blog with pictures there. There's just too many to put on the video. Okay, let's go over the patches. The patches are just half square triangles, 2-inch finished, and squares. And I've given you here the rotary cutting instructions, so if you have a rotary cutter and a ruler, you can make this block. For rotary cutting, you cut 2 7/8 inch squares, cut them in half once diagonally for 2 patches. And this tells you how many patches you need of each color. If you have AccuQuilt and you want to use that, it's the 8-inch cube shape 5. And patch B is a 2-inch finished square and it's cut 2.5 inches square. We'll need 4 patches of that. And you can rotary cut it this way or you can use your AccuQuilt. On this demonstration, I'm going to show you, instead of cutting all the different patches, how we're going to use the half square triangle 8 at a time method. And I'll demonstrate that here. And let me finish showing you the pictures. Here are 4 blocks put together. And then on page 2, I have a full quilt. So you can see the detail there in the quilt. And this quilt is 35 blocks and it finishes 60 by 84. I have the fabric requirements here for doing this quilt using the 8 at a time half square triangle method. Here are the fabrics I'm using for this block. This is a light fabric, I'll call it, and these are the squares. This is going to be the background, this other white fabric. And then I have 2 darker fabrics. Here's the light fabric and a medium fabric. I have these squares cut at 5 3/4 inches for our 8 at a time half square triangle method. If you look in this section here, these are the different configurations of fabric, and each one we have to make 8. For each one of these, we'll need 2 pieces of fabric. The first one, we have the background fabric, and we're going to put that with the red. So there are 8 triangles there. The next one is the red and the light fabric. We have that. Then we have the black and the background. And I'm putting them right sides together. And then we have the background and the medium fabric. I'm going to turn these over. And we want the light sides facing up. I'll show you how we do the 8 at a time half square triangle method. These I've cut 5 3/4 inches square. And this should get you the size you need without trimming. If you are new to this technique and you're not sure if you'll get the right size, then cut it a little bit bigger. Cut it 6 inches square. Then you'll just have to trim down each one. I would suggest that you go ahead and try doing it this way, and that's less work, and then you can practice on your accuracy. We've got these right sides together. On the back, we're going to draw 2 diagonal lines. And I just use a regular pencil. On either side of each line, you're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch away from the line. So if I'm sewing here, this would be my scant 1/4 inch. I'd go just to the right of this line with my guide and then stitch a scant 1/4 inch all the way down and stitch the other side the same way. Turn it around and do these 2. So you'll have 4 rows of stitching. Next, you're going to cut it. If you've cut these 5 3/4 inches, first cut it in half both directions. the vertical and the horizontal direction. If everything is right, it should measure from the center of this line where they intersect to the edge of the fabric should be about 2 7/8 inches. I'm going to just cut, and don't pick up anything but the ruler. Now you measure from the center again to this line, and it should be 2 7/8 inches on this line. Then cut this horizontal line, and don't move anything but the ruler. Now we're going to put the ruler on one of the diagonal lines, and we're going to cut it apart, and then pick up the ruler and go to the other diagonal line and cut it. Now you have your 8 half square triangles like that. You're going to open them up and press the seam open. On one of the points on each triangle, you'll have a little bit of seam here of it. So just rip those out as you are opening them up to press them, because they do get in the way when you're trying to press your seam open. Now once all of your half square triangles are pressed, if you cut your squares larger than 5 3/4 inches, then now's the time to trim these down to 2 1/2 inches. You'll have to cut off the little nubs. And I just use my rotary cutter and cut. And there you have your half square triangle. Now we have 8 half square triangles of the 4 different combinations, and I'll have to press these and cut off the nubs. Now we'll come back and put the block together and then stitch the block. Now we just need to follow this diagram and lay out the block so we can piece it together.